You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We've got Jersey Mike on the dial here on the old, what's the name of an old phone? I don't know. Rotary, that's what I was trying to think of. Jersey Mike, what's up? Ooh, that's not going to work. Let's try part two. I can't understand that.
Man, I'm back just to my usual. Jersey Mike again. Oh, somebody's running off the road. Don't hit me now. Okay. Anyway, so it's got to be Dubs and something. But I don't want to give up a draft pick. What about Dubs in the league East? I mean, they just got rid of Tyler Lockett. What about Dubs and Bo Melton? What about Dubs, Bo Melton, and Malik East? And then we bring in Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf. Sorry. Devontae Adams is part of the trade, but all right. Bo Melton, Malik East, Romeo Dubs for DK Metcalf, and then you sign Devontae Adams.
You're that guy in the fantasy football league that tries to get the best running back in football by giving me your entire bench of garbage. Bro, it adds up. I'll give you 7 terrible running backs, and you give me just one super elite guy, and then it's even. If you do the math and add it up, it's the same value. It's no, dude, that's not how it works. That's just...
And then we draft a guy in the draft, like Jack Beck or Trey Harris. I don't know, one of them guys. But that's my thoughts on wide receiver. I had a bad inkling of a dream, though. For some reason, Marshawn Lloyd has not been a part of the Packers' plans in my dreams. He doesn't do much of anything. I don't like that. I still think we need a running back. But this draft class is pretty deep, so I think we can get one. I think we can. We don't need a big piece. We don't need a Marshawn Lloyd piece. We need another Emmanuel Wilson. We can find one. I'm down for it. Okay, on defense, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. I want Jair here. I don't know what's going on with the Jair situation. I don't like it. I want Jair here. Jair is a dog. We got to get him healthy. It's just supposed to hit about playing with some injuries. We gotta give him some guarantees. Hey, if you get injured, we ain't gonna push you off to the side. But also, if you get injured, you better play. And if you do play, we'll take care of you, homie. We'll make sure you did.
All right, we're gonna cut it off there. It's getting rough. I don't know what you got going on there, Jersey Mike, but go ahead and take us off the old Bluetooth and see if you can't put the phone up to your face. Too busy trying to live in the future, all right? Flying around in a freaking rocket car or whatever you're doing. Well, I think, not that I'm one of the, dream reader people, this is what your dream means. But anyways, the Marshawn Lloyd thing not being in your dreams is probably because he didn't do anything. So it has more to do with the past than the future. All right, let's give the man an opportunity. I'm just saying. I wouldn't be surprised if we draft a running back, not based on the Packers thinking we necessarily have a need, because I don't think we do. I think we have 2 very good running backs, and we haven't even seen Marshawn Lloyd yet. But it is a deep running back class, according to what a lot of people are saying. The teams seem to really like the running back group, especially the depth of it. And it wouldn't shock me if the Packers are sitting there at some point looking and saying, by far the best person available is a running back, let's just pull the trigger. And unfortunately, because of your 2 calls, I only listened to about a half of one. This is going to be a short episode. I thought we had enough calls. I'm not so sure anymore. Drew, what do you got going on?
Hey, Ryan. It's Drew from Green Bay.
What's up?
I was just wondering, we're getting really interested in the defensive tackles because we need one. But there have been quite a few mock drafts from professionals that they fall Mel Kiper had Walter Nolan drop into like 31 or something like that, or maybe 32, like really low, and a lot of them have Derek Harmon, in the second round and significantly in the second round. So are we just getting hyper focused on defensive tackle because that's the best way we could improve our team is to get a star? And then how do they, if I remember right, we got Kenny Clark at like 30. How does Kenny Clark match up with Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon and these other three techs if you compare them? I think Clark was a little heavier, but I'd just be curious what their production was like in college and all of that. All right, thanks. Bye.
It's a good question. We haven't really looked back retroactively. We're always, one of the things I kind of want to look at is this constant talk about, the types that we always go get. I don't know how much it holds up as opposed to being more myth or whatever, but let's see. UCLA, who's a first-round picked 27 in 2016. He's 6'3", 314 pounds. He had an 81 PFF grade, 76 run defense, 75 tackling, 77 pass rush, even a 77 coverage. So he's as across the board even as you could possibly get. He was a nose tackle in college, which is worth noting. 41 pressures on 460 attempts, so like 9-ish% with 7 sacks, which isn't the worst, especially if you're saying, okay, he's a nose tackle. And remember, we drafted him in our 3-4 system. So you assume he's coming in to play that role. The year before, he graded out slightly better, but it was almost entirely run defense. His pass rush, his run defense was a 91. His pass rush was a 59. He only had 17 pressures and 0 sacks on 457 attempts. So you would probably say he was probably more of a run defending nose tackle that got significantly better in pass rush, but it was just sort of the 1 year, and you don't know how much you can trust it necessarily, I guess, is how I'd be looking at it if he was a prospect today. But yeah, he's a bigger dude. 314 is, a lot bigger than a lot of these guys that you hope to have some pass rush production closer to 300 pounds, possibly even a little bit less. But yeah, we'll see. The mock drafts can be all over the place. And one of the problems that happens, and I'm not saying that this is the case, one of the things that happens as you get a little bit later, which we're kind of getting into that territory, is everybody's done mock drafts. Everybody's done, everybody that does mock drafts has probably done dozens of mock drafts. And you get to the point where you get bored. And you see people start to do crazy things because they're just kind of burnout. And you get sort of this mock draft burnout scenario where you start to see wild things, and you don't know if it's, hey, is this something you actually legitimately think is going to happen? Or are you just not wanting to say the same thing you've been saying and, copy especially if you're, trying to stand out, whether you're just somebody on social media trying to sound smart, or Mel Kiper not wanting to be one of the normies and being like, I've got inside information, so you got to do weird stuff. I don't know. I don't really know, but it's hard to tell when things move, if it's just out of boredom or is there an actual shift happening. But I think a lot of the defensive tackles have been going a little bit earlier. I don't think there's a ton of them, so I wouldn't be surprised if they started going earlier, but there's a ton of edge rushers, so you might see teams kind of moving in that direction instead. That maybe will push the defensive tackles. I really don't know. I don't know, but we'll see, because there's 2 or 3 main defensive tackles that are kind of hovering in that range, at, above, or below. And they are the types of guys, too, where if they fell to the second round, it would be like, okay, I could see that. But if they went like 13, I wouldn't shock me either. Because, none of these guys, like I said, to me are slam dunks. But they all have potential where it's like, if you could tap into that, holy crap. So again, it's just kind of whether our teams are all out or all in, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was one way or another. You kind of expect them to go a little earlier, just because, like always, it just takes one team. But that's true of everybody else. So, if they did fall, it's because they were all in on somebody else more than you. So even if there is one team that actually believes it, it doesn't mean they're going to pick you. But why don't we go ahead and take a break? We got Daniel from California on the other side.
Hey, Ryan, Daniel from California.
Yo.
Just thinking about the composition of our defensive line and the coach we brought in, right? Because we have the old defensive coordinator for the Patriots. He was their defensive line coach before as well. And if you look at what those guys tend to do, and just historically, like the Belichick style of defense, you tend to see where it's actually really similar to what Halfley does, where you'll have rush contain and you'll have very specific roles for each guy. And so that, last year we played a lot of mobile quarterbacks and we had a lot of contain rush, and I know that's what a lot of people do. And you just see the kind of the slow to the quarterback mentality and stuff. But you see a lot with the Belichick defenses, it's a lot of the similar things where it's like you're going to maintain that kind of a pass rush along with doing the exotic blitz packages and everything and disguising coverage behind it. So it's not saying it's exactly like a Bill Belichick defense, but there's some similarities. And the fact that we brought in a defensive line coach that has familiarity with that system kind of leads to that. Now, with what we know about the defense and the defensive end from this to Colts, it kind of makes me think like, oh, that's kind of what they're going for. Just, like they're not prioritizing pass rush, they're prioritizing the guys that do their job, and like I don't have any idea of exactly what coaching points England, but just that stout, big, hybrid defender that can hold the point of attack and do multiple jobs. Kind of like how Jamie Collins is this massive middle linebacker doing multiple jobs, pass rushing, all that stuff. It just seems like it's kind of more of the same of that type of mentality. So we'll see, man. I think I don't know. It just seems weird. Like they might be prioritizing bigger names, they made calls for Myles Garrett and calls for Max, but all that fell through. And I don't know. I don't know if they're actually going to be trying to make that move, because I think you've seen the results last year. Yeah, we struggled with our pass rush, but I don't know. I feel like they thought they accomplished a lot with run defending. So I think they might try to edge it up to just move it up, but prioritizing run defending seems like their goal. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, what comes immediately in my mind is Brian Gutekunst explicitly saying we have to be able to get home with 4. Now, maybe that is part of the more of a coaching point than anything else. I mean, in other words, that's an aspect that hasn't really been discussed. We kind of just assume that means they're going to go get some stud pass rusher or something. But, maybe there was just a disappointment with the lack of ability from the talent we already have. You mentioned 1,000 times how everybody got worse. So if we could just have everybody go back to what they were 2 years ago, we might be able to get home with 4. And so, now we got a new defensive line coach, and so there's that. But I certainly can't shake the suspicion that they're trying to really make a move. I mean, obviously it could be both, but the idea of we're not going to just trust a coach to come in and fix everything and all these guys are suddenly going to become superstars. We need to be able to kind of dominate. And every team across the NFL is doing that right now. And so, with the Super Bowl happening and pretty much every team getting on board saying, yeah, we need that, and the Packers explicitly to come out and say, we got to be able to rush 4 and be able to get to the quarterback. And then obviously hearing whether it's true or not, the rumors that they were reaching out, and certainly not close the door with Myles Garrett. It's, in fact, I didn't look into it, but I just happened to notice some news about he's going to have a sit-down meeting with the Browns. I'm guessing he's trying to move this along and say, look, guys, we got to, face facts here. I'm not coming back. It's not going to happen. So try to get them to allow him to go around and try to find a trade partner and see if they will participate in it. But we'll see. I mean, it's obviously never going to be the most likely scenario. You're one of 32 teams. Right now there are 3 pass rushers off the top of 4 maybe pass rushers off the top of my head that are would be good to unbelievably franchise-altering moves. Sweat, Mack, Garrett, and Trey Hendrickson. There's probably more, but those are the ones that come to mind. And again, with Khalil is likely to get re-signed. Garrett is likely to be held on to for a long time, so you're kind of just looking at 2 guys, and it's going to be real tough competition. But we'll see.
Hey, Pack Daddy. Hey, I just wanted to follow up with my idea that I had suggested you would do a short YouTube video with Colin, and calling it Crushing It with Colin.
Yep.
And I think that if you would just have him pick maybe his 5 biggest players that he thinks that have a chance of being drafted by Green Bay, do an evaluation of them, and what he thinks, makes him a great player. Well, why does he pick them? Give him, some points of, what makes them his big draft crush. And just throw him some, like a 2-minute video, then throw it out there and tweet him out big time, have Clayton, all the guys, pump up his numbers, and maybe he'll go viral. So I'm going to keep nagging you until you do it, because I think it'd be pretty cool. So got to do it. You got to do it. Just do it. Just like Dwight says, do it. Do it. Do it, do it, do it.
3, 2, 1, do it now. Do it now. We will see. We will see. It might end up being a podcast thing. The video production thing is, I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll figure it out. He's got to get the rest of his positions done, and then we'll go back through and see which ones he likes the most. We'll go from there.
Part 2. Since Chicago is, trading for their offensive line, I just was wondering if you wouldn't mind doing just a quick evaluation of, Thuney's career with Kansas City, and maybe highlight games that these guys have played against Green Bay and how well did they grade out against our defense. I'm really curious of what Thuney's numbers are, who lined up against him, and how well did he, grade out against Green Bay when Kansas City when Green Bay beat Kansas City a couple years ago. So I can't name off the other player that they also traded for that was an interior lineman, but if you don't mind doing the same for him, and I guess anybody else that they get in free agency, I just would really be curious how well have these players graded out in the past, if they have any games versus Green Bay. So I'm out.
So the Bears, I mentioned this before, just continue to be hilarious. Their idea of, we're a draft and develop team, and every year they just go all out in free agency. They give away all their picks, and then we, talk about, well, obviously they're going to be very good. And of course you sit here and you look at it and go, man, how could you not be? You've got a really good offensive line. Just like last year you had maybe what we thought was the best wide receiver core in football. So it's very easy to believe that, oh man, Bears are going to be good, and then they suck. And then they go and revamp the offensive line. It's like, oh man, they must be really good. I refuse to ever believe in and shame on anybody who is believing in the Bears. Absolutely shame on you. You believed in Justin Fields. You believed in all the lies every single year that they were going to be good. You believed in every single pick that they made that everybody told you was great. You believe they had the greatest wide receiver core. You believe that Caleb Williams is going to be a great quarterback. I mean, how many more times? I understand being a Bears fan that's been let down, but we got Packers fans and everybody else that's been let down by their expectations. Why do you have such high expectations for them? Ay. The funny thing about Joe Thuney, yes, he's a good football player. He's 32 years old. He's 32. And so again, I'm looking at this going, you're continuing to, if you want to give away picks, I understand. I don't understand being a team in a rebuild, and you rebuild with something that's going to make you rebuild in a year or two. I mean, this is a patch. This doesn't fix anything. What are you doing? It's a desperate play by a GM that knows that he's going to get fired if this sucks. And so as much as he's probably got it built in him, oh yeah, draft and develop, that's what we got to do. He has to produce, and he doesn't want to do it in the draft. And so he's giving away this year's picks and next year's picks. Thuney in particular was a 2026 fourth round pick, which makes it seem like it's less. But again, I will reiterate to anybody, and I would love for anybody to call in and explain to me how I'm wrong. A fourth round pick is the exact same value as another fourth round pick, regardless of what year it's in. Now, it may not have as much value to polls in this moment, duh, but that's not the point. Pretending a 2026 fourth has less value than a 2025 fourth is stupid, and so he's giving away this year's picks when they're already at a deficit in terms of picks, and then starting the process of giving away next year's picks. Ay with this guy. A fourth round pick has a good amount of value, and you traded that away for a guy that's going to spend almost no time on your team. Just like you did last year when you got a wide receiver that's like 500 years old. That didn't produce and didn't look like he wanted to be on the field, and everybody called him fat all year. But 32-year-old Thuney did have an 80 pass blocking grade and a 74 run blocking grade. There are several caveats here. And I know you want to compare to the Packers. I will try to find a couple the very few times that we've faced them, but just bear with me. Maybe I should save this for tomorrow. I'll save it for tomorrow. Let's just do what you asked. So, Joe Thuney, 2023, Week 13 against the Green Bay Packers, 77 overall grade, 70 run blocking grade, and an 86 pass blocking grade. He gave up 0 sacks, 0 hits, and 1 hurry. It was his third highest graded game that season. Week 9 of 2021, 68 grade, 58 run blocking, but an 89 pass blocking, 0 sacks, hits, or hurries. Not going to go back much further because I'm not sure how many times we've played the Chiefs outside of these two instances. Jonah Jackson, they had acquired from the Rams, formerly of the Detroit Lions. I had, for a while there, talked about how, and I'm even going to forget our guy's name, Runyon. Jonah Jackson and John Runyon were kind of like the comps. They were similar guys in my mind, just from different ends of the spectrum, because Jonah Jackson's a run blocker and not a very good pass blocker. This guy, again, I'll save it for tomorrow, but the 6th round pick isn't that much. But, well, he played 5 games last year. We can start with that. But again, he played for Detroit for many, many years, so we saw him a ton. Going back to 2023 against Green Bay, he had a 58 PFF grade, 62 pass blocking, 56 run blocking. We had 1 hit in that game, but generally speaking, not very imposing. We didn't see him in the other game because he didn't play in that game due to injury, so that's 2 years in a row with injury issues. 2022, Week 9, we saw him 57 grade, 57 run blocking, and 55 pass blocking, 2 hurries in Week 9. And then in Week 18, he had a 47 grade with a 24 pass blocking grade. It was his worst pass blocking of the season. 5 total pressures. That was the most pressures he gave up in a season. 4 hurries and a hit. He also had a 57 run blocking grade. He missed several weeks in 2022 as well. So Jonah Jackson, the Packers have beat up on quite a bit. Not necessarily, it's not really unusual. He gets picked on quite a bit. Like I said, for a couple of years, it seemed like he was a stud run blocker. And by stud, I mean like good at it. And then he wasn't good at that anymore. And now he's just not a good pass blocker. And he's hurt all the time. And there you go. But the Bears made big free agent splashes. So we got to expect something. Which the funny thing is, they already have Tevin Jenkins. And Tevin Jenkins is actually a really good guard. He's just hurt all the time. Jonah Jackson is a not good guard, and he's hurt all the time. So I don't know what the hell it is we think that we did that was so special here. And he's at left guard, which is where Tevin Jenkins is. So is this just like, I mean, this would be a decent backup to Tevin Jenkins. That's about it. All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back. We got 3 more calls. We'll be right back. So we got Jared, the Uber driver. I will preface this by saying, and I have not done this yet, but he has officially reached out. Every once in a while, obviously, we got a pretty large listening audience, and life is rough, and we come across lots of issues and hardships and whatnot, and we've had people that have asked for help, and we're always willing to do it because I think, obviously, we've all been there, and we know how much it means to us to be able to have some help. So, check out the social medias. I should have that up by the time you see this. If I don't, I'm a failure. But honestly, it just comes down to, by the time this is done, am I going to remember to have done it? But Dirt Trader, Jerry the Uber driver, we know he's been calling in quite a bit and is a loyal listener, loyal caller. So any help you can offer would be appreciated. Jared, take it away.
Howdy, this is Jared, the Uber driver from Texas. And just calling in, I'm sure you've seen all the updates and everything. But do you think we go still Khalil Mack? Do we go Joey Bosa? Do we go Adams? Do we trade for DK Metcalf? There's a lot of options. I mean, unfortunately, Sam Hubbard retired. I don't know if that was even in the cards. I don't know if he was going to be a free agent or something. But yeah, no, there's a lot out there, and of course Max Crosby signed a record deal, so he's going to stay with Las Vegas. But that was kind of a pipe dream.
Yeah.
If they weren't going to play their cards like that at all. But anyways, I also wanted to say thanks to, I think it was one of the Aarons, for sending out prayers and everything for our family with what happened. So I also just want to make sure you got my message that I sent. Hopefully that can be shared a little bit. But thank you so much. Y'all have a good day. Go Pack, go.
Yeah. So again, check the socials. Anybody that can, I would appreciate that. I know it's been rough. Not going to sit here and complain about my own issues, but I did, just to point out, somebody had just reached out to me about Patreon being a little bit too much, and my response was essentially, believe me, I know, me and my wife just had we got to start making some cutbacks here. So I fully understand the squeeze, but the good thing is there's always people that are in any given moment not feeling that, and it always feels good when you finally can take a breath and you got a couple extra bucks to be able to see somebody that's struggling, throw them a little life vest, even if it's $5, $10, or if you can do more, obviously, the more you do, the better it feels. So check out the socials. As far as the pass rushers, like everything, this is, you get all these list of names and you get excited and you just watch them go one by one. The good thing is there are cuts and they begin to get added to the pool, and some of the maybes become yeses, like Trey Hendrickson, although it's not a definitive yes. That, again, may be very much a go test the market, come back, and we'll agree on a number. They're in a financial pinch right now with 3 huge contracts to navigate, so I'm sure they were trying to be as frugal as possible, but or I should say this, they're using all their negotiating tactics that they can come up with. I just mentioned, I don't know if it was, could have just been 10 minutes ago on this podcast, but there's just a handful of guys that I can think of that I'm super excited about. Hubbard is not, or was not, one of the big ones for me anyways. But again, I think Khalil Mack is probably going to be back with the Chargers. I mean, he could just say no. I mean, all I know is that the Chargers' plan was to let go of Bosa and then bring back Mack. And there's a part of me that thinks that they maybe wouldn't have cut Bosa if there wasn't something in the works with Mack, that it was at least definitively going to get done. We got a couple, I's to dot, T's to cross here, but it's an agreed upon thing, essentially. The fact that it hasn't happened has given me some comfort, I guess. I should check the socials. I'm sitting here talking. Usually I have Twitter just up, or X, or whatever the heck, so I can see stuff coming in, but I don't. So now I'm just sitting here blind, panicking. But look, I mean, I would like a big swing. I try to be as level-headed as I can and understand that, the big names and the big money are not the be-all, fix-all and all that stuff. But again, I try to at least rationalize it away with the belief that, we're just a couple premier players away is kind of the the way that I've sort of canonized it, or whatever the phrasing would be. And I just, I don't want to give you all hope and then get you ticked off at me and the Packers and Gutekunst and everybody, but I can't help but shake this gut feeling that they are really determined to make somewhat of a splash. Again, you're constrained by what's even available, but to make some kind of a splash, and especially edge. In my mind, there's no way they aren't going whole hog after some pass rushers. And it could be defensive tackle. There aren't as many of them, and I think edge is, when you think we can't get to the quarterback and we need to, I think you go out and get a guy who's built and bred to kill quarterbacks, and those are edge rushers, right? So I think something's going to happen, and if there's only 3 or 4 available, obviously you can't guarantee, other than to say I think they're going to try to push real hard to make it happen. But otherwise, we just got to sit back and wait and see. The good news is the 7th for me, the 8th for you. So any minute now, boys and girls, it should start getting hot and wild around here. So keep your phone notifications on and whatnot. Make sure you're up and awake and aware. Watch, it's going to be super boring and quiet, which it could be because it's kind of a quiet market anyways. Although, as I said, 2 days out, I noticed it was a little bit of a trend. I only looked at 2 years, but 2 days out was when there was kind of an uptick in trades, because trades were not a big thing up until that point. This market is bad in terms of free agency, which pushes people more toward trade. So maybe there'll be more. Maybe it'll be super wild and crazy and freaky, nasty. Hopefully not. Hopefully they just trade people and don't get weird about it. But they might. You never know.
Hey Ryan, it's Trevor from Green Bay again.
What's up?
I don't really want DK Metcalf, and my main reason is because basically he always creates issues on the sideline and in the locker room when he's not getting the ball, and I don't want that in the ear of Jordan Love constantly, especially the way we run our offense, where a guy can be the complete game plan one game, and then for a couple of weeks just not be part of the game plan at all. And I just don't think that DK Metcalf is going to want to be in that kind of environment. He's the kind of guy that when he's open, he wants the ball. And if he's not getting that, it just seems like he's caused a lot of problems over the years. I mean, him and Seattle have been going back and forth and have these rumors about getting rid of him, trading him for years and years. They've always asked for a lot, and nobody's ever been takers. He's starting to get up there in age now, though. He's like 27. So, yeah, I don't see any way you'd get that first and then more. But I do think that there are legs to these stories because there's just been too much smoke, and now some of these reports where you're talking like a 6th and a 5th and Wicks for, Metcalf and a 4th or whatever it was, like, that's pretty specific, and the value seems about getting close, and it seems to be kind of like maybe more what the Packers would be wanting to offer, and maybe the Seahawks are trying to get them up, putting out rumors of, I've got someone who's going to give up a first and then some. I think he'd get more than a third, maybe a third and a player. Like maybe Diana Rossini only got half of that, But so I'm not really interested in DK Metcalf. Then we have to pay him a lot. We could just draft a guy if we really want to go that route. And I'm not interested in Mack either. Like, we could still be 2 years away. I don't want to get a guy that old. Let's get, a younger pass rusher, either draft one or trade for one. I'm not really on the board of like getting a 1 or 2 year rental out of Max. So anyways, have a good one.
Well, I've seen a lot of allusions to DK Metcalf being an issue. I don't know anything about it, but I've already begun the process of kind of digging into some of the incidents and whatnot, and so we can possibly explore that tomorrow. I certainly do not want that either, and if that's a concern, then I'm not interested. I think the Packers work very hard to try to maintain a certain kind of environment, and to bring in a toxin is not worth it. I don't care if you think the guy's good, because it's going to be a problem. I do have, there's things already conflicting with this theory, but just off the top of my head as I'm looking at it, I'm seeing a timeline of incidents, and I'm seeing a ton of 2024, and so my two thoughts are thus. Number one, there's a lot of recency bias. He's been in the news as having an issue that really is brand new, that is being seen as this is who he is and this is who he's always been. Number two would be that the frustration comes from the fact that the team sucks, and that happens a lot. I think Devontae started to see some character issues when he went to Las Vegas, and there's a lot of guys that, even our brand new running back, his play fell off an absolute cliff. Why? Well, because the locker room sucked and nobody wanted to play. It's not a good thing, but it doesn't matter because he came here, the team is good, and he's not mad anymore. But again, there's already some conflicting incidents with that. Number one being that he's the most penalized wide receiver in the NFL since 2019, in large part due to personal foul and unnecessary or unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, because he's got a little bit of a temper, which actually, funny enough, he was ejected in a Packers game in 2021. He got into a fight with Henry Black and Eric Stokes, and that was in a 17-0 shutout loss. So, yeah, I think when things aren't going well, he has a temper, which isn't good because in Green Bay, I don't know if you noticed, things tend to not go well for a long time before they kind of kick in and start going well. And if he's kind of shipped off, like we saw with Romeo, for example, that's like football is tough, and you're going to have some times when things are rough, and you got to have guys that have the fortitude to stick with it. And it's a good practice to kind of see who can't handle it through those rough patches, because maybe those aren't the guys you necessarily want to hang on to, because it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's like I've said before, the locker room's always great when you're winning, and it's always terrible when you're losing, but that doesn't mean you can't still try to work toward people that aren't going to explode your locker room when the first sign of trouble occurs. As far as the rentals, though, I kind of get what you're saying. Couple objections would be, number one, I don't know that we're really 2 years away. I think the Packers have been able to win a Super Bowl for a long time, and really 2 years is a lot. Look how much a team changes in 2 years. There's a lot of guys that are here right now that are not going to be here in 2 years that we probably think will. Like we thought, a year ago, Jair was probably going to be here for a very long time. When we gave him that contract, we didn't expect him being gone, and he's gone. Stuff happens, injuries happen. 2 years is kind of a long time. And one of the things you can do in 2 years is really start to build around them. So it might be 1 year, it might be 2 years, it might be 4 years that he's here, which, by the way, that could be the same. You could get a 28-year-old guy that's only got 2 years left in the tank because he hits 30 years old and falls off. So, the only way to really ensure that you got more than 2 years is twofold. Number one, you have to draft them, so just get rid of free agency. Or number two, try to find the unbelievably rare 24, 25, 26-year-old and go that route, which, again, almost never happens. And as far as I know, there are zero of those available right now. So, no, I think the Packers can win. I think they need to try. I think they have some deficiencies. And I think in the meantime, while we have not solved it in the draft, we should do whatever we can to go out and find some players. It's obviously better to find younger guys. I wouldn't throw out the idea of a temporary patch. If there was a Khalil Mack that was 26 years old, would I prefer that? Yes, but there isn't. And even in the case of Trey Hendrickson, he's younger. Yeah, but he might be more done than Khalil for all I know. I don't know when the fall off is coming. He's 30 years old. I don't know when. He's still humming along just fine. In fact, he seems to be continuing to get better. If you just look at his PFF grades, his entire career, 61, 65, 68, 71, 73, 83, 82, slight dip, 88, right? I mean, his pass rush grades have done the exact same thing. They just continue to go straight up. But it's coming down, and it's probably going to be sooner than later. Is it at 30, 31, 32, 33, 35? Maybe he's going to be in there for a long time. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely would prefer Trey Hendrickson. I'm just saying I don't know when that fall off is coming. And so the age doesn't necessarily dissuade me other than to say he probably doesn't have much more than 2 years, but there's most free agents, I have no idea how much they can give. I don't even know if they're going to come here and succeed when they come here anyways. There's a lot of guys who are top tier players, go somewhere and they suck. So, the draft is better. Yes, it is, but it's less certain. Young players like Josh Jacobs are beyond ideal if you're able to get a guy right off his rookie contract, but it's, again, good luck finding those guys ever, because usually teams are not that stupid. So I guess I'm saying the draft and free agency are just different, and I view them differently. And it's why I prefer the draft over free agency, because I agree with you. It's why I prefer guys like Xavier McKinney over everybody else, because I agree with you. But at the end of the day, I do see a difference there, that free agency in its current form of kind of getting guys on the back ends of their careers that are not long-term options still has some utility. And I would love to have a guy like Khalil Mack here to help our 2025 season and our 2026 and maybe even a year or two beyond that. All the while, so that we can address other things. He can hold that down while we can address the defensive line and cornerbacks and some other positions and be competitive. And as he starts to expire, not obviously, not the greatest term, but you know what I mean, you plan on that and start to replace him. Starting probably as soon as he gets in here if the opportunity arises. But in the meantime, we can't fix every single problem in the draft. There's too many problems, so we have to go out and do it, I guess would be my thought. All right, Garrett, let's wrap this bad boy up.
Hey, Tech Daddy, it's Garrett.
Yo.
I just wanted to kind of follow up with my last call when I was talking about free agents that maybe Green Bay could really go after, just to just make it where the draft doesn't have such big holes to fill. And you had said maybe you hadn't done a good enough job of, presenting free agents out there that Green Bay might sign. And I would just say this: you've done a really good job of pointing out who was probably the best free agent out there that Green Bay could go after. And I don't want them just signing people just to fill in spots, and I really don't want them to settle for guys that aren't really that much better than the guys that are on the team. So I want difference makers, and, I kind of felt like you made a compelling argument that Reed was definitely a defensive back that could possibly do that. Now, is he going to be as good as Jair? No, but if he plays and starts every game and plays at a level of, a score of PFF 70 or better, I feel like he's done his job.
Exactly.
And if they can just, draft another DB in the draft that's a high-end one, I kind of feel like they've made that group a whole lot better than it was last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of feel like you've done a pretty good job of presenting the best free agents out there, because I don't want them settling for somebody. And, now there's talks of even Trey Hendrickson being on the trade block for the Bengals. So there's another possibility of the defensive end that Green Bay could go after that's not named Khalil Mack. So I'm really kind of out on the rest of the guys that are out there. There are guys that it just doesn't move the needle for me for a lot of reasons. And I kind of feel like that it's kind of, go out and get the best if you can afford it, or just go through the draft, because I do not want to just replace some, position like Preston Smith with another Preston Smith, So go out and get the best if you're able to, is all I'm hoping they do.
Yeah, and there's nothing, I'm not opposed to, like, if you're trying to get depth, that's fine. I just don't think we need a bunch of that. Maybe offensive line depth would be the one where I could see getting somebody that isn't top tier. They can come in, compete. Maybe they start. Maybe their backup. Doesn't really matter. We need more bodies there. Linebacker or something. If you just want to bring in some more bodies or something. We don't have a corner. I'd love to get a top tier corner. I could see getting a corner, kind of, just from, again, the standpoint of I want to make sure we have enough bodies, because right now we have just enough to start and basically nothing else. So whether this person actually starts or is depth or whatever the case may be, I'd like to bring them in. There's something to be said about that if you need that. I just don't think We got guys. We have some good players. We have a lot of meh players and a decent amount of subpar players. We have a lot of bodies. Right? Our free agency was almost nobody. That's part of the equation here. Like, nobody left. So there isn't this big need to replenish. We have tons of guys. And if you want to kind of patch a couple little holes here, like I said, offensive line, sure. If you want to go down that road, I have a hunch the Packers are going to get back to drafting their 3 offensive linemen per draft thing, or at least 2, probably mid to late round guys, and then a bunch of undrafted free agents. But yeah, I just point is, I feel like top end is the goal, and everything's lining up that way. Not necessarily the fact that there's a bunch of them in free agency, because there isn't, but just the fact that we don't have a whole lot of holes that need to get filled. The fact that we have lots of money to spend, it just gives them, it narrows the focus. You don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. You can just focus on where are your eyes going to be centered. Where else could Gutekunst possibly be looking? What are you looking at? There's the draft and what? A 5th defensive tackle, or like what? So, fingers crossed that things go well and soon. I can't believe it's going to happen, man. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen for the Packers, but free agencies, it's right there. Legal tampering. Breaking news. The Packers have signed, and it's either going to be, we're going to see that, and it's either going to happen early or late, and it's either going to be, holy crap, this is the greatest thing in the world, emergency podcast time, or I quit. I freaking quit. But either way, we'll get through this together. You have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.